YouTube. Yep. Be interested to see if anyone's actually going to show up for some chat. Oh, we're live.
Yeah, ready to go.
All right. And we are up and running on the tubes. Nice.
Sweet.
Okay. Okay. I got that muted, and I think we are ready to get this thing on the road. I've got all the designers and artists and publishers and everything. So, it's holding at a 7.5. That's nice. It's ranked like 5,875, but it's holding at a 7.5.
Nice.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Long View, a podcast that takes a closer look at the games people play. The Long View is proudly sponsored by Game Surplus, bringing the world of board games to you, GameSurplus.com. Check out the Long View podcast picks, as well as some great customer service anytime that you order from them at GameSurplus.com. Tell Carmen or Elaine that the Long View sent you. Tonight, on this episode of The Long View, we are taking a look at a very recently released game entitled Donning the Purple. It is designed by Tom Pet Games and was debuted at the last Essen Game Fair. And for tonight's episode, we have a special guest of Moe's Game Table. Moe, how's it going there?
Good. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing well.
I'm doing really well. I'm a little sad. I got my daughter start watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and she's watching it without me. I'm a little sad, but I'm a little proud and sad at the same time. I can't be in there.
Nice. It's a great show.
Oh, it's awesome.
In addition to Moe, you can hear there TC Reed. Hey, TC.
Hey, it's good to be here. I'm very excited to get this episode going. This was one of my big surprises from last year. And we've just played the absolute tar out of this thing. And when I saw that Moe actually did some coverage of it, I was like, oh, awesome. We got to get him on to talk about this thing, to get this thing a little bit more coverage than it actually has been getting. So yeah, I have been looking forward to this episode for quite a while. I'm actually very excited to get Moe back on. Hey, Moe, how's it going?
Good. How you guys been? You guys been playing anything new? Aside from Space Corp, I know you've been playing Space Corp.
Yeah, Space Corp's been eating up a lot of my time. Of course, they just announced the Keyforge stuff. And I finally, speaking of Game Surplus, I got my copy of Root on the way. You hear that, Joe? Root is coming my way. We will be playing Root. Yes. And my daughter's very excited to try the Woodland Alliance with the little mouse figures, little mouse wooden meeples. So yeah, that's we got a high level anticipation over at my household here right now.
Very cool. Yeah, there's some big news just released recently. I think the magic date is March 14th for some upcoming Root stuff. So I think that they've kind of pinned down exactly what they are going to be offering in the expansion of some sort that's going to be coming out. So a couple of new factions, a new deck of cards, and a double-sided board is what I remember reading about. One of which, one of those factions is the Underground Duchy, something like that. So, hey. Oh, it seems really cool to me. Yeah,
I just saw the Lizard Alliance and all that. I'm just like, I'm so thrilled this game is taking off the way it has, because one of my biggest regrets was actually not kickstarting it when I could. But I'm like, okay, I've got like months of lost time to make up on this thing, guys.
When's the Gecko Cabal gonna come out, or the Gecko Gang? Lizard Alliance, you gotta add them all in there. I don't know. I don't know any of the alliances or anything. I have not played Root. I don't have it, and I've not played it. So I keep hearing everybody talking about it, and everybody says a lot of great things. But eventually, I'll get a chance to play.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this will get my daughter into coin games. This is going to be my sneak way in. Like, oh, look, we got this game with little animals that's kind of coinish. Why don't we go to the American Revolution over here?
It's not too far of a stretch, right?
No. We'll see how that goes.
Nice.
Yeah, so Root's definitely been coming up on the game table here. So a few other, just got a chance to play Coimbra, which I was a huge fan of. Really loved that.
Yeah, how is that? No, we're kind of veering off here, but I've heard some. I've had a chance
probably
to play
not for you, TC, but I loved it.
Okay. Well, Maybe I should try it. Oh, wait, you say it's not for me. I probably won't like it. So that's your way of incentivizing me to go out and try it. I got you, Joe.
Oh God, yeah. It's strange. This is a game that is set in Portugal, and there's another game several years ago that released called Madeira, which is set on Portuguese settled island.
Yeah.
Now,
Round request.
Strange similarities exist between this game. So they're both games about, like Portugal. They're also games in which you will be taking dice and putting them onto a platform. I'm not familiar with really any other games, many other games, I should say. I don't know of any off the top of my head that do this. But those two similarities alone are like uncanny. But aside from that, the rest of the game, it's got travel like Orleans. It's got tracks that you advance up that remind me of the game Endeavor. And really the central part of the game is drafting dice to then eventually draft cards. So it's a Euro, as we should say, a Puro. Just
Puro.
Get it out there in one word, a Puro. So don't go into it expecting any sort of themes and guys and killing and smashing and stuff. It's just all like decisions. So
cubes and numbers.
I suppose, yeah. Cubes and numbers, my friends, my homeboys.
My homeboys. Well, I still stand by. I like games that use dice in interesting ways. So, this is one thing that really caught my attention on this one. And I've heard some people who prefer heavier games speak really positive about this one. So, and
it's an espresso shot game. It's one of those where it's a very condensed experience. You make a lot of decisions, and these decisions have impacts throughout the rest of the round. One other way in which it's similar to Madeira, because Madeira had this weird, it's like the game functioned like a boomerang where you take one action and then it comes back. And if you aren't ready for it to come back, imagine a boomerang that's coming at your face and your hands aren't ready for it. You can get clobbered.
Oh, yeah.
Look out, PC, turn around, bam, right in the face.
Oh, yeah. I remember going, pirate tokens in Madeira. This has got to be a good thing. No, no, they were not.
No. They were the most anticlimactic pirates I've ever seen in a game. Like, the designer admits that they just are supposed to simulate white-collar crime. And they're just, like, marginally themed with pirates. Like, they didn't make much sense that way. Anyway, Coimbra does not have pirate tokens, which I thank it for.
Okay, think it for or it should. I was wondering where you're going with that.
If they're going to do pirate tokens, I at least want it to be a little bit more piratey. Are you with me?
Yeah, I am. Considering me and my wife have been playing a ton of Sea of Thieves, I think I might be with you. Yar.
Well, let's bring it back a little bit further. Let's roll back the wheels of time here, because we're talking just about Coimbra, which is set in sort of a Renaissance, post-Renaissance building up of the Portuguese sea. It's an age of navigation game. But the game that we're talking about takes place at least millennia before that. This is going to be a similar time period to the game Time of Crisis. It's sort of in the very unstable years of the Roman Empire as it was declining and becoming more victim of infighting within the various clans. What is the backdrop of donning the purple?
Go for it, Mo.
Yeah.
Well, basically, as you were saying, it's the end of the Roman Empire. It's the declining years of the Roman Empire, and you have 3 different players. So you can play up to 3. You can play 1, 2, or 3. We'll go with the full player count just to talk about those first. You have 3 different roles. You have the emperor, the emperor's heir, and the senator. And everybody in the base rules, we're not going to even talk about the advanced because we haven't even all played that. So there's no asymmetric powers aside from the emperor. Everybody has the same type of every player has 2 actions. The emperor has 3. Emperor has some extra actions that they can do because they have an emperor mat. Basically what you're trying to do is survive 4 years and be the king of the hill by the end of the 4 years, or king of the hill enough times to where you have more victory points than everyone else, while you're trying to stave off defeat by losing all of your capital cities or getting all the enemies on the board, and they do come hard and fast.
Yeah, I think it's 23 enemies on the board is one of them, or losing all your cities. Yeah.
And basically it's just a king of the hill game. It's very simple. It's a very simple concept, but what makes it really interesting is It starts off play with the Emperor, and the Emperor can and will die. Players do die in this game, but there's no permadeath, which is cool. You can die and come back. Dying can actually be a good tactical move too. You know, you might just say, like, for example, which we'll get to later, when you're feeding your people, you may say, I don't have enough food to feed them. Screw the people. Let them go hungry. I'll die. I have the air token. I'll become the Emperor again. I don't care. You know, I mean, so you can be like, you know, kind of like, what was that, History of the World? You know, screw the people, you know, that sort of thing. You can do that, you know.
It's good to be the king.
Good to be the king, exactly. So wait for the shake. But you know, you can have a lot of fun with it in that way. But there's a lot of treachery. There's a lot of table talk that can happen in the game, and the game forces cooperation as well as competition. So it's a competition game. You don't want to allow all of the what do you call those? The capitals to fall, and you don't want all of the enemy tokens on the board, because then the game's immediately over. No one wins. So you're forced to work together in that regard. But you also want to go after the person who's the Emperor. So the other two guys are gonna work together, and you know, screw each other over at the same time. And we're gonna go after the Emperor. But then when the other person gets the Emperor, hey, I got a new friend now. The guy who was the Emperor, now I'm his friend. And the concept behind it, the last bit before I'll turn it back over to you guys, is the reason why you can die and come back is you're not playing a single person, you're playing a family. So, you know, when you die, the next person in line takes over as the next, you know, inheritor of the title of Emperor, heir, or whatever. So that's pretty much a quick rundown.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Mo did a great job on that. Yeah. So, then the biggest reason you want to be Emperor is you want to be there to, you know, like you said, you could just screw the people and not feed them. But a big way to get points is to keep the people happy and score victory points. One of the more interesting innovations I think this game does is with those stamina tokens. And like Mo was saying, you are playing a family member, and your family member only has so much stamina, can only make so many decisions before he's going to kick the can, and you earn a permanent -1 victory point. So it's very tactical in that sense, and you only have like these little discs. I don't know how many you start with, like 12 or 13, 11. Oh, it's close. Yeah. 12, 11, no,
10 in the solitaire and the 2-player, 11 in the 3-player.
Yeah, and every decision you make goes out, and then they come back, but they're exhausted, and you don't get to re-exhaust them till after your family member kicks the can.
Or you get also glory dice.
No, yes, you got that too. Yeah, you got your glory dice. Another thing I really enjoy about this game is the way it handles combat. And one of the things I initially suckered Joe into playing this, because one of his big complaints about, one of the things he didn't like, I shouldn't say complaint, about Time of Crisis was the die rolling for combat. In this game, as long as you have equal to or greater number than the warrior tokens you're going into, you're going to defeat them. And you actually roll dice not to see if you win, but to see how much money you get, or if you get a card draw, or if you get to refresh one of your stamina tokens. So I thought that was a pretty interesting little concept there. And another thing I really enjoy about it is the co-opetition of it, because you can all lose. I mean, there is a big incentive to work together, because if you don't, I mean, you definitely don't want a situation where you have like 8 warrior tokens in a capital, because it's going to take at least an 8 or higher to march in there and take them out. But to keep and incentivize you to go in there and clear the capitals, that's one of the ways you get a victory point, is to get clear the capital out of warriors, of the invaders. So yeah, this thing's doing a lot of interesting things. It's a 3-player game that is it's one of the better co-opetition games I've seen. And more than that, and I think Mo hit on this one very well, it's a trash talker.
Yes.
My God, the first time we played this thing and we figured out halfway through what was going on, oh my goodness. The 3 of us, I think, dominated the game room with our talk. It just came fast and furious. And going into this game expecting a Euro, I was really surprised what this thing was and what it was doing.
Well, it definitely is, you know, like I said, there's a lot of trash talk, and it really does capture that Roman, you know, hey, you're my buddy, as I'm reaching behind you with the dagger, you know. So it's got that feel to it, and the plot cards and the events that you deal with. The plot cards have the actions you can do where you can really just jam somebody up pretty quick.
Oh, you can. I mean, there's those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the basic overview of the flow of the game is that it's 4 rounds. this game goes pretty quick. I mean, the longest game I've had of this has been 90 minutes, and that was learning it. And within each of those 4 rounds, like an emperor can like come and go like right quick, just one after another. But during a particular era, what you're doing is you're figuring out what the enemy's coming, what's coming out. You're flipping cards of the emperor. You figure out who the emperor is. And the emperor, when you're emperor, you're broke if you're trying to feed the people, because what's happening is during the beginning, the first round of the game is like what's it, the famine's hitting, or is it drought? That like negates like what's going to produce in the area. They stack, by the way. The only way to get rid of them is for the emperor to build an aqueduct that can clear it out. And by the way, the aqueduct can be destroyed if the barbarian hordes move into that area. You're trying to, so. And you got these events coming out, which, by the way, which Mo said are just amazing, because when you're the emperor, you draw I call it like this deck of death. And that's just probably one of the reasons why people don't like this game as much. Is, I mean, they're card flips, and the emperor's flipping 5 over, and like none of these are good, except some of them may be beneficial to everyone but the emperor. Right? The other 2 people are gonna make out like dogs, and the emperor's gonna be like, "What? No." We've had like one run, like 2 volcanoes hit, like a barbarian horde like march twice upon on one of the capitals. And then everybody takes a turn. And what's another interesting mechanic is when everyone takes a turn, some of the choices one person makes, everyone can jump in on. Like say like, oh, I want to go out and put a senator chip out, which is kind of important, because if you're a senator, if you're the furthest senator, you're next in line to become the emperor, unless there's an heir, which can come out. But if you decide you want to go to the Senate, everyone else can follow you and like pay more money to get a chair in the Senate. Now there's other actions you can take. We can like assassinate a senator, just take him out, so you're the head one, or you could just flat out try to assassinate the emperor, but you're only going to do as much damage as the pips you roll. So yeah, there's this. It's really interesting balance of trying to keep the board state manageable while stabbing someone in the back at the most opportune time to maximize your victory points. Now, another mechanic that's in here that I rather enjoy that a lot of people don't like, I first ran into this when I played Chua, is that it has a hidden victory condition. Now, once you play the game enough, you can suss out what the hidden victory condition is that the person playing. But until then, you're trying to keep it under your hat. Like, for example, one of my hidden victory conditions was to have the most money. So, like, under no condition did I want to be emperor, because I did not want to feed the people where I was. I just let them starve so I could just rake in as much money as possible. I was like the crappiest emperor you can possibly imagine. And even not going after the victory points for being emperor, I came in like 2nd place in that game. So it seems to me that it's a pretty balanced game, at least with the base game, without throwing in all the Kickstarter stuff.
Well, TC in that regard, being that bad of an emperor, that stood for Tiberius Claudius, correct?
That's correct. That is correct. Yes, I proudly stake my claim as being crappy. I think I became emperor with only 2 stamina left. It was like, guess what's going to happen, guys? I'm not going to make it. Sayonara. See you later.
Well, that's the thing. The other thing too, like you were saying about, you had a really good explanation about how all the steps go. Another thing because there's so many little bits and pieces to it. The other thing about the Senate is not only are you next in line for the emperor, you also decide which buildings get built in the build phase.
You can like switch them around.
You can switch around 2 things. So you can, hey, I'm gonna wait, and then I'm gonna kill off. Especially if you're a third player.
Yeah,
you're like, hey, I'm gonna wait until it's my turn, and everybody else has put out their senators and stuff, and then I'm just gonna go kill this guy. And you can also do it sometimes with a plot card with the event off that, where you just put a guy out there, and then now, hey, you're the first one, you're the furthest one out, and being the furthest one out, not only are you next in a line of succession, but you are also you're the zoning guy. Basically, you can say what goes up and what doesn't, So, and that's really critical when it comes to getting those buildings out for making more money.
Yeah, because there's 2 type of buildings you can put on that. Well, but 3 if you're the emperor, because you can put an aqueduct out there.
Yeah,
but yeah. The first one you can build out that's like a casa. I don't know what you'd call like a little villa estate. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's not Mexico. What the hell am I thinking? Joe's gonna just reach through and smack me out outside the head. Yeah, but then there's also the arc. There's another type of actually gives you a monument that gives you in-game ability, permanent in-game abilities. Like for at least the base guy, it gives you a +1 to your combat moving in. Yeah, so you could be there, be like, I want to get this my building out to make some money, but I'm last in line. But if I can maneuver my way to being leading this in, I can switch with someone, and I can determine who I don't like the most, depending on how mean people the other two players are to me. And you can even hostage that, be like, if I do this for you and do this to him instead, what are you going to give me? It was like, oh, there's all kinds of douchebaggery you can do in this thing. It's pretty amazing.
There's no rules against extortion either. I mean, it is Rome, so I would say that you should play with extortion. I mean, you could say, like you were saying, hey, how important is getting those other 2 estates out there for you? It's an extra 10 coin every turn. So how about you give me 5 coin and I'll let you get those 2 in there if you need to get a little bit extra money, especially if you're like the emperor, because you may say, hey, like I was saying earlier, hey, heck with it. Screw the people, let them die. I'm not going to feed them. But I have the air token, and then I'm going to become emperor again, and then I'm going to be able to cash out in the tax phase. Okay, great. You die, you reset the air token that goes onto the emperor mat. You are now the emperor again, but you don't have the air token. It's on the emperor mat. So after your tax phase, when it's your turn, because you get to go first again, first thing you do is drop 15 coins and you get the air token back. So you can perpetually keep that emperor until someone takes it away with a card.
Yeah, or you're broke, because that can happen fairly easily if there's a lot of famine out there. Because if you want to try to be a good emperor and keep the people happy, you want to spend money, and then of course another player is going to have a card that's going to increase the cost of grain. You're like, oh, I have all this worked out math wise. We're going to feed everyone. Everyone's going to be happy, and then boom, I just increased the grain from like 2 to 3. I'm like, yeah, some people aren't going to be very happy about that.
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at the numbers, you have 25 provinces, you have 18, maximum 18 grain that you're going to get. So you're 7 short to begin with.
Yeah, and that's assuming everything's producing.
Exactly. That's without anything producing. You're going to most likely end up with at least 1 famine out there at the beginning of the game, especially the beginning of the game, maybe 2 different regions. So you're going to lose anywhere from 3 to 9 potentially, because you have that one region 4, that produces 6 grain, and the others all produce 3. You've got Rome, and then you have the 3 regions out of the 4 that produce 3, and then region 4, which produces 6. So you have the potential to lose 3 to 9. So you're definitely right there. You're okay. Wow, I'm way under the gun now. I'm going to need to get, at 2, that's the starting cost. Well, like you said, if you go, hey, I'm going to screw the emperor up, I'm going to go jam it up 1, maybe 2. It's like, wow, now you're going to buy like 10, 15 grain at 3 or 4. No. There's no way that you're going to pay that off.
Yeah, and you can just do as much as you can and just watch the happiness goes down. Yeah, and then another thing is that if only empty areas produce. So if there's like anything in there, like you got some bad guys in there, whatever, they're just going to produce. So it's like, it's like this vice. This game is just like a vice that's just cranking down. And then you got player interaction just cranking you down more. It's just like, and it's one of those games where it just seems like everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And for me, I get a lot of value out of that. I think a lot of entertainment. It's just like, oh my goodness, there's no way, guys. No, we're all going to lose. I mean, there's at least 1 or 2 games I've had where I'm just begging the other place, like, yeah, this is fun. You're really getting me. But you realize if we're all going to lose, if we can't figure out a halfway decent way of working together, Rome's going to fall.
Well, you know what it feels like to me? I had when I probably should have put this in my preview, but I didn't. It just has this feeling like you're under a pendulum, and I mean the pendulum that they used to use to assassinate you. It's swinging back and forth, and it's continuously descending, and just slowly. And you just feel that dread coming down on you because it's very swingy, this game. You have a whole bunch of enemies out, and then you can wipe them all out, and then the game board gets updated and gets worse the next time around. If you don't manage it, it gets even worse. So it goes back and forth because you're even though it says it's just 1 turn, it goes really quick. There are 4 years that you're covering, so there's a lot of things that happen over the span of a year. So it's really I enjoy that swinginess. Though normally I don't like swinginess, but in this game it fits very, very well. It's very thematic.
Yeah, this game. Yeah, I would agree. And this thing can swing on a dime. I mean, there have been at least 4 games. Let's see. Yeah, at least 3 to 4 games where we had the board under control and we were just ready to just bury the knife in someone's back, and then things just exploded. Just like it was unbelievable. I was like, holy cow. Mike, I was gonna like just throw you under the bus, but I think we need to actually push this bus along a little bit longer. I think as 1, 2, yeah, 4 more barbarians, and we've officially lost this game, guys. We need to start looking at the bigger picture here.
Well, you start doing good, and like you said, you get the game under control, and you're, oh, we got this, man. And then Mr. Murphy shows up and says, "Here, hold my beer," and then he just messes with you and just completely destroys everything that you've worked for. And again, it goes back to the Emperor has to deal with all this stuff going on. How does that player want to manage their empire? Do they want to be a good Emperor, which is important to do because, like you were saying, you hit on a really important point earlier about the happiness. If you don't have that screw the people attitude and just say, the heck with it, I'll just reset and I'll take the -1 victory point. If you keep that happiness up there real high, you can get like 3 victory points, and that's huge to get in one turn.
I know we're talking about like 3 or 2, but victory points is a pretty big chunk of points in this game. I mean, yeah, even like and then there's the multiple ways to get it, because you got the happiness meter. Sometimes what are the cards that come out with the agenda cards? It's like every round a card's going to come up and you can like put one of your stamina discs on there, but you're permanently losing it.
Oh, the forum, yes,
forum. And there's ways to get victory points from that, but man, you're losing stamina permanently to cash in on that.
The hard part about that is because with those is that's a card that everybody tends to forget because 2 things. It's over on the side. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm so keyed into these other things. And then the other, like you just said, I'm giving away that stamina permanently. So if I do 2 or 3 of those, I'm down to 8 now. So I'm in really bad shape.
Yeah, you're bad shape. And I was really on something else. I didn't, until I was talking to you, I didn't realize this thing had a solo component. I mean, I realized it did, but I haven't really had a chance to play it. So it sounds like you had a chance to play this thing solo.
Yeah, solo.
How does this hold up?
It's a beating. It is a beating.
It is a beating.
It's a very fast game, I'll tell you that. You play multiplayer, and you're going to play, I don't know, like you were saying, about an hour or so. You play solitaire, you can be over in 15 minutes or 30. So it
basically takes you longer to set the game up than to play it solo.
It depends, because they pull out a lot of cards out of the deck. Not a lot, but they do pull out a decent amount. That what that does is like I've got the card deck in front of me, for example, it'll take out like production sabotage, which is, for multiplayer, your rivals are doing well. The Senate leader is killed. It takes all those things out. And instead that helps expedite the bad cards. Like enemies have just, jumped in and they're moving on your capitals. Hey, there's more enemies. Hey, there's a volcano. Here's more famine. All these bad things happen. And you start off and you're like, wow, I just started this game and I've got like 4 guys in region 4. I've got 4 up in region 1, 4 in region 2. And then I think it was the beginning of the 3rd turn, I had 8 guys in the region 3 capital, 8 enemies in the region 3 capital. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much done. Until we can have the Manhattan Project and I can knock those guys out real quick. Now that's you got to raise legions and run them in there, and it's tough.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was having as Emperor playing in multiplayer, is that I know the Emperor has access to legions, and I haven't really found an effective way of using those yet. Have you? I mean, maybe it's just me being a bad player.
No, I think they're tough because you're limited. I think you only get 13, I think it is.
Yeah, there's not very many.
Yeah, there's not a tremendous amount. You're really using them more as garrisons for your cities. You want to protect them, most importantly. You're not going to be maneuvering them too much across the board unless you just say, like in region 4, if you've got a bunch that are coming down at you. Yeah, you know what? I can run them out here and then run them back. I can run out 2 spaces, kill these guys, and then run back, and I'm good to go. But generally, you're not going to run them around the board. And the one thing that I was a little disappointed at, but I also understand it from a gameplay standpoint, from the design aspect, is as Emperor, you'd expect that you could take those legions, you can lead them across the board. But if you could do that, that would definitely unbalance the game, because then it would be like, wow, the Emperor has like mega power. He doesn't have to, he could just raise up, because it's only two coins per legion, I think. So you can raise up what, like 5 more legions, you run around with 5, you'd have 7 strength if you could carry your legions with you.
Yeah,
with your player tokens too, so that would be pretty huge.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I'm interesting how, they're going to put the Emperor in time of crisis in the expansion. So I'm curious how they're going to pull that off. But yeah, because I initially thought that, I'll just raise these legions and I'll just run across like, oh no, TC, you can't do that. You can only use that. It's like, oh, okay, maybe, So I've been, for the last few games, I've been trying to wrap my head around that. But
I think to be more blockers, and just really you're going to use them to delay. Which is what they're used for in the cities. They just sit there in the cities.
I just put them in cities and
that's how they set up, and they sit there. But until enough enemies build up by turn 2, most likely, they're not really in a position to take over the city. Once they hit 3, they have 3 strength. To your 2 strength, they're going to take over your city. So that's where you have to run your dude down there. And the sea routes actually really make a big difference because you can jump down to region 4 or jump over to region 3 pretty quick, or go through region 2 and region 3 pretty quick to clean that area. The hardest part is region 1. That ends up kind of getting, if especially if they're down at 1 or 3 in the 1 or 3 provinces, you're going to have to go through 6, not 6, but it is 6, 4, and then 3 because 5 is Britannia, and that's
Britannia,
yeah. So it's kind of tough, and that side of the board tends to be forgotten. It seems a lot of the times,
Well, the biggest thing I use allegiance for is just to protect my own buildings because only one building can exist in one space except for in Italy. So I'm like, hey, I'll buy some legions out there. Anybody want any? Okay, fine. I'll just put them on my buildings. Good luck, guys. By the way, I'm dead and my legions are going to protect me.
Well, that's why the first thing you want to do is you want to put them, everyone does, is if you're going to put out your estates, you're going to put them in the capital cities because they already have a garrison there. So you're safe. Yeah. Well, not safe. You're in a better position. Safer. Yeah.
Yeah. And that they do get congested, you could just send your troops in there and get a victory point for liberating the capital. So
sure. Yeah. Well, that's we've not really touched on what we're talking about with that player pawn. The player pawn is your personal army, and you run out. It's a 2 strength, and it gets buffed by the plot cards, which we've talked about, but we haven't really covered.
They get they get buffed by the plot cards and by the first building you build, the monument that buffs it by 1. So the plot cards are really interesting because they're events you can play, or you can keep them and use them as a modifier for when you fight. Or if someone's trying to assassinate you, you can use it to modify your defense, which is the most I've seen it used for, especially people trying to hang on as the emperor or try to maintain their hold on the Senate to mess around with the builds. Yeah,
you can try to use those. Like you're saying, to assassinate or to attack the enemy. And then when you use them to attack the enemy, though, it's only for 1 movement. So basically, if you have a 3 move, so you put that down and you run it out there. If you've got 2 provinces in that region that have enemy, you can go there, second and third province. You can run out there, go 2, 3. And if I remember correctly, I think it's that power stays for the turn or for that movement.
Yeah,
so
you move
it just the first combat.
Yeah, you can just like march your little army there. It's like here and just all the way through.
And then you get the glory dice.
Yeah, there's for every enemy you defeat, you roll a die, I believe.
Yeah, the special glory die.
Yeah. So if you're like there's 3 in there, you're like I roll 3 dice and like, oh cool, I get all this stuff and a card. Or I get 3 cards. And the glory dice are really interesting because they're not just straight 6-sided dice. One of them is a circle, which gives you an exhaustion back. One of them is a little card icon, which lets you draw a card. And the rest of them are just pips, which gives you money.
Yeah, you get 2s, 3s, and 4s. If I remember correctly, I think it's 2, 3, 4. And no, it's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Because it's 2, 3, 4, and I think 1 is a plot card, or 2 is a plot card, and then the other is the stamina, retrieval, as you said. And you get that back, and that's really important because when you think about it again, thematically, it's good. You went out there, you took these guys out, and then you get the riches for the win. So either you make some money, or you get a little bit more ability to kind of have influence in your plots of intrigue by getting a plot card, or you just get straight up money because it's well, I already said one. You get your stamina back because now you're building your legend.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat how that thematically works.
And when I first was seeing that, I'm like, oh, cool, we just roll dice to see who wins. I'm like, no, you've won as long as you equal to or you're greater than your opponents, and you just you roll the dice with a reward, which I thought was kind of a neat twist. I haven't really seen a game roll dice as a reward. Usually,
yeah,
it's you roll that's pretty neat. I really like that little twist there. So there's something I wanted to. Oh. So, how did you get exposed to this game? Well, that's one of the things I want to talk to you about, because apparently you got in pretty early on this thing.
Yeah, it was a game that I had talked to Peter about when he was getting ready to go to Kickstarter. I think it was late 2017, early 2018. I can't remember. It was probably about late 2017. We talked about it, and then when he had prototype, he sent me a copy of it. I played it and gave him some feedback, and then we talked about it back and forth, and then I sent it off to another person he wanted to take a look at, but had a lot of fun with it. Really enjoyed it, did the preview, and then talked to him again about a month ago after you and I talked about it.
Yeah, I was like, I saw you did this thing.
Yeah, I said, oh, yeah, he's talking about it. I says, can you send me a copy of the updated rule book? He's like, wait a minute. What do you mean updated? It's in the box. I said, I don't have a copy of the game. He's like, oh, let me send you one. I'm sorry, I forgot. So he sent me a copy of the game, and I was like, oh, cool, this is going to be great. So I did an unboxing on it, because now I'm getting to see the final copy, not just a prototype. And I had a lot of fun doing that. Some people had messaged me saying, wow, that's a pretty cool game. Never heard of it. Just like you were saying before,
yeah.
Nobody knows about this game. It's kind of like one of those, unfortunately, best kept secret, and it's a game that I think is really great because of the simple fact that you can play it with up to 3 players, and you can play it solitaire, 2-player, 3-player, plays good at all player counts, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. You're playing in about 60 minutes, and you're having a lot of fun, a little bit of trash talk. It's not a super complex game, but there's a lot of room for strategy, and you can take it seriously, or you can just have fun with it. One of the two, and when you play solitaire, like I said, that's a beating. It's fun. It's really fun, but it's going to beat you up.
Yeah. The things I noticed is I think the reason it flew in the radar bit, was it like a Norwegian Kickstarter? It was like, it was, I was looking at the Kickstarter to see how it funded and what stretch goes me. I was like, this is not in American dollars. This is looked like it was like a Norwegian Kickstarter, so that might have a bit to do with it.
That could be.
And I think another reason I like this so much is I was looking at the comments here, is that it really fills a space for me, because I love Cosmic Encounter. I mean, it's me and I love playing with my daughter, my family, and everything. But man, the first time I played Cosmic Encounter at 3, it was like the most miserable experience of my life. I mean, my first impression of that game, if I would have based it on my first play with 3 players, I never would have touched that game again. You just need like 5 or 6 plus for that minimum. And this really hits a sweet spot for me. So it's like my 3-player Cosmic Encounter I can play with my family. Oh my God, when my daughter plays this, she's such a trash talker. Oh my goodness, it is so funny. And then and then watching mom and daughter just go after me, it's just it's an experience like no other. So it really feels, I think the reason this struck me so much and enjoying it so much, it really filled a niche I was looking for, because these are the type of games I like, but typically I can only get this experience with Dune, Rex, Cosmic Encounter. Those are higher player count games, and those games can go for a long time. I mean, Rex, you're looking at like a 5 to 6 hour.
TC, I think connection-wise, unfortunately, we were just talking about Rex being a 5-6 hour game. That's the last I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
there you go.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Did I glitch out there?
I think you just had a little bit of a connection lag. No big worries. You were just saying Rex is a 5 to 6 hour game.
Assuming it doesn't self-destruct in the first hour, because that game can. I mean, if you get some new people who don't know how to play, and you get some experienced players, I mean, they know what they're doing. They can eke out the win pretty quick, and it can be a really frustrating experience. And Donning the Purple seems to mitigate that a bit. I mean, I think the way it does it is with that cooperation aspect where you're trying at least to work together a little bit to manage the board so you all don't lose.
Yeah, you can't intentionally tank the game. There's no king making or anything like that. You are either going to win or you're going to lose together. You know, one player is going to win or you're going to lose together. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So I had another question here for you, Mo. I was curious about. So have you had the opportunity to play this with a 3-player experience?
Yeah. The 3-player, I played at all player accounts, and
sweet.
I like it at all player accounts. You know,
nice.
It's I think obviously it's best at 3, but 2 works very well. The same, you know, pretty much as 3. Although you're missing that extra person, which, you know, that triumvirate kind of makes things a little different than just, you know, head to head, you know, so it's pretty cool. And then again, the solitaire is great when you want to just sit down and I got an hour and a half, but I don't feel like laying out a bigger game. I just want to play something that's quicker playing. Well, sit down. You're going to probably get at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 games, and depending on how it goes, you know, so that makes the solitaire experience, you know, fun to me, because you go out there and go, wow, what's this thing going to do to me now? What's this world going to do to me? And it just beats you down, and then you fight back, and it beats you down, fight back, and you're trying to see if you can survive. And it's a simple, you know, mechanism too. How it works is every turn, it plays just like the multiplayer with some additions. Instead of actually playing against another player, each turn you put out 2 senators, and at the end of the turn, if those 2 senators are out there, the AI gets 2 points, 2 victory points. And then if the next turn you put out 2 more, well, now you get 4 victory points on top of the 2 you already got. So it quickly spirals out of control. So you got to kill off those senators too, or put your guys out there. You know, it's brutal. You have to, I can't just forget about these guys and worry about the invaders. You know, the invaders start coming out really hard and fast, but you also have to really manage that Senate. But the good thing is in the solitaire mode is you get 5 turns, 5 actions per turn. So you get a lot more chances. But overall, you're only getting 20 unless you get a free one from a plot, which can happen once or twice. But generally, you are, you know, you're really tight on actions, which is kind of cool. Is the actions are tight. You only get 2 per, unless you are the emperor. We talked about this earlier, but as you mentioned, you can copy actions, and that's really an important piece of this game.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like in the base game without solitaire, you only get 2 actions unless you're the emperor, and you get 3 because you have more to choose from. Now we've gushed about this game quite a bit, and I'm certainly guilty of just going on and on and on about how great a game is and how much I like it and all that. But you know, this game does come with this game definitely is not for everyone. And so I was wondering, what would you caution against? I mean, what would you warn people who might be interested in this that what to expect that they may not enjoy typically in a game?
The things that I would say, probably the only thing that would be negative to people would be, obviously, don't take it too seriously. It's not like a deep strategic Roman Empire building game. It is, but it's, you know, much more simplified, much more abstracted. It's lighter and it's fun and it's fast. It's not something you have to really worry about burning too many brain cells on and feeling bad because you made the wrong move or something. It's not going to have a lot of analysis paralysis at all. Actually, there's probably going to be none. The only other negative would be that I would think would be for people who are sensitive to take that. Because when you're the emperor, everyone is gunning for you. Everyone, including the game.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, people are going to go, wow, this game sucks. Everything wants to kill me. It's like, yeah, that's the point. When you're the emperor, everyone wants to kill you. And it even shows you on the cover, which I think is really cool. Is the evocative cover is you have the emperor in the purple toga there talking to the people, and then everybody behind him's got a knife either out in their hand or behind their back as they're walking up on the emperor saying, we're going to kill you, you know. So that would be the other thing too, is some people can be pretty sensitive to the threat, you know, of being eliminated, but you're not eliminated. You just respawn, basically.
Yeah, you just get a -1 victory point, which you can negate. I mean, there is a forum card that says lose so many negative, but that has to come out, and that's another thing that I've seen I had at least one game of this go south on me, and it's because the person playing it could not handle the randomness that was coming out with the forum cards, with the politics cards, especially the event cards, that 5 draw. I mean, every time that thing hit, I thought that guy was going to lose his mind. He's like, this is, how do we, there's this, I mean, and that's something after that particular game, I had to be like, hey, look, every time I've taught this to people, like, look, you've got to prepare that there is going to be some randomness in this thing, and have to tell them that this game can swing really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, but I enjoy that type of thing. And I know there's some people out there who don't. So, I mean, as much as I like to, just gush on this game, it does have some things in it that can potentially drive a certain type of person completely up the wall.
Well, yeah, I can see that. It is swingy. And, again, going back to the thematic aspect of it, there are 5 events that happen every turn. That's 5 events happening over the span of a year. So essentially every 2 months and a couple of weeks or something, this volcano happened, and then a couple months later this invading army came in, and a couple months later the Praetorian Guard is extorting you for more money. So that's how you look at it thematically. These things are happening they're not technically happening all at once. They're happening over the span of a year, just like your actions are happening over the span of a year. So it's like, what, number one is, it's a game, have fun with it, and just don't take it that seriously. And yeah, things can be random, but it's not, like I said, it goes back to the thinking aspect of it. There's no analysis paralysis. It's not a deep game. Just roll with it, have fun, and don't worry about investing too much effort into it. So the swinginess is expected. Now, if it was a game where you had to really, like Joe likes these deep economic games. If you had that and then you had a big swinging factor in it, you'd be like, this is stupid because I have no control over this. I'm burning brain cells figuring this out. And then you throw in some stupid crap that just destroys my plan, destroys everyone's plan. And then you got the guy over there like me going, yeah, this is why I just play it every turn. I just go, yeah, I'll just do this. Who knows what's going to happen? You look like a genius at the end of it,
Yeah. And then you're just riding the wave of chaos. Yeah, that's me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because, we had another the same person who we were doing an initial play of Space Core, and, just that flipping over randomly what your discovery was. Oh my gosh. You thought it would be the end of the world, but just be aware that it's in this game. And like Mo said, I know Joe doesn't like it when I throw out the F word, but I've had so much fun with this thing. I don't know if this is the best game. I don't know if this is the most balanced game out there, but oh my goodness, have I had just we played this. It was like, oh, this is great. And we looked, it's like that something like an hour and 10 minutes, guys. Wow, we should do this again, and we did.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's interesting because this game almost comes to the point where it could be a filler. It's a little too long for that by about 20 minutes, but it's so close. It's such an interesting design choice that make it that quick, because I think with this amount of randomness and going on, I think the play time's pretty perfect for where it needs to be, because I think if it was any longer, it'd just be like, oh no, please let this end, please.
Well, that's why I said before, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's here. You get to know it, you get to like it or dislike it, depending on whatever, but then it's gone, in the right amount of time. It doesn't sit there and go, oh no, we've got another 2 hours to go, where you go, oh, screw this, I'm done. I'm checking out mentally. And then you make the game miserable for everyone. It's not that at all. It's like, you can stay engaged for 55, 65, 70 minutes or whatever it is, roughly an hour. You can stay engaged in this game. And if you can't stay engaged in this game, then I don't know what kind of game is going to engage you, because when you're not the Emperor, you're working with the other player to go after the Emperor. Mm-hmm. When you are the Emperor, you're listening to the 2 other players talk about how they're coming after you. So, I mean, everyone's going to be talking smack. It's a lot of fun. I mean, this is a great type of con game. You can like, especially like late at night, say you're sitting there with an adult beverage or 2, and you're just kind of sitting there talking smack and, throwing out lines from movies and stuff like that as you're playing and having fun. And then, the swinginess at that point becomes funny. You know, it's like, oh, here's some more enemies. Oh, wow, that region 4 is screwed. They've got 9 coming after the capital now, you know, and you have fun with it.
Yeah, and then, by the way, the drought tokens they stack. Now we have 3 of this one area. Oh, that's gonna be out for the rest of the game. That's just drought. Forget about it. The barbarians can have that, man. Screw it, it's gone.
That's the fun part about it. Now that player that you were talking about, they just don't like randomized, you know, aspects of a game. It sounds like, and that's fine because not everybody likes all types of games.
No. I mean, I'm not. I mean, as a. I mean, I enjoy playing game. I mean, it's a little interesting for me because I'm an omni gamer in a lot of aspects, so I can like just go from whatever. But yeah, you know, it is what it is, and you know, we could go from there. You know, like okay, well then break out. The thing that we play after that was the Estates. After that, and he loved that thing. I'm like, yeah, this is great too, man. Let's bring it. You know, but that was all calculated screwery. You know,
yeah.
I think I actually won that game. That's the first game I played where I won with a negative victory point, negative number. That was amazing. Oh yeah, it's like -3. Did I win? Yeah. How did that happen? But
that's fun.
Yeah. Wow. This is gonna be a fast episode. A quick game, a quick talk. So let's just.
You want me to say anything? Like,
oh yes, please.
Hey, we have somebody else here.
Is there a joke?
Like, I feel kind of like you were saying my name and kind of mentioning, like, I haven't gotten a chance really to give any input.
I'm sorry, Joe.
But no.
I have monopolized your time. I'm sorry.
No, you haven't monopolized my time. I think that, you know, like, comment-wise, you did kind of present the image, you know, like the player that did not enjoy the game. And I think that, you know, like you gave reasons for what that player thought. And then you've also sort of, I think, already given the counter argument of like, well, it's, you know, it's not that type of game. So, you know, I guess take what I'm saying with a grain of salt.
Well, we do. You're salty,
grain
Joe.
of sand. Yeah, I'm just always salt. So
you're salty, Joe.
Salt.
Salty, Joe.
Yeah, so TC, I think that it was a bit of an issue of expectations. And the reason I addressed that to TC, Moe, is because when TC described the game, we previously discussed the game Time of Crisis. And Time of Crisis is one of those games where I've got some issues with it, but I feel like my issues wouldn't become issues if I played the game enough. You know, if I really knew the game system and just kind of like just belted games of that out, I feel like that the issues that I have with it would kind of become side issues. You know, it does still have a very long play time that makes it kind of difficult to get out in every sort of situation. And so in a way, you know, Donning the Purple. Time of Purple.
It's a purple crisis. Purple crisis.
It sounds like Donning the Crisis would actually work for this one. It does shorten the playtime from what you guys have described. Our learning game took 2 hours, though. So that was not like, I mean, it was a learning game, and we were a lot of fumbling, you know, trying to figure out what's going on. So that, you know, could certainly be relieved with, you know, playing with an experienced player, with somebody who knew what they were doing. You know, if I could get the playtime to about an hour, I think that there's a lot more. I would be maybe a little bit more forgiving of some of the elements of the game, but I'm not 100% sure. That's one of the reasons that I've kind of been reluctant to share much. So, like I said, seriously, take what I'm saying as very, very uninformed. You know, if anything else, you know, either take it, you know, either listen to it and maybe relate with me, and if not, just think that I'm uninformed and I have no idea what I'm talking about, because I will absolutely admit that. We played with the variable sides of the boards, and what it did is it brought an element of the game to the absolute forefront, one that you all discussed earlier, and that is the plot cards. So just like math-wise, plot cards in this game are like you draw one of them per round. These things are saucy, like as just beyond powerful. Like they're cards that not only will undo the entire round that you've been planning for, but can also have increased effects beyond that. And what was happening in the game was, I mean, if you look at it, this game only has 4 rounds. In 4 rounds, you take 2 actions. That means 8 actions in the entire game. So I would spend an entire round with a plan of, okay, well, I suppose I'll focus on this just to see how this element of the game works. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and it's going to lead to this. And now that I've prepared for this, that you're going to play that plot card, and that says that, so what I did just goes away, and you get that instead. Okay, yeah, here you go. Take the air token. No, that's fine. And you know, and if you can get that, like that's that feeling. It's not like I'm sitting there like I hate this. I'm just sitting there like that's fine, you know, like whatever. And then when we did achieve the monuments in the game, which is how you like when you build a monument, you have an effect that takes place on your board. I believe on the non-variable side of the player boards, there is not any real. Well, there's maybe once or twice when you're drawing one extra plot card. What was happening when we played on the variable sides of the player boards is that was 4 plot cards. And it wasn't just one player that drew, it was 2, you know, at 2 separate times. You're talking about like what happened in our game was that one player was able to have at the end of the round, after everybody's actions are over, 4 plot cards, which they immediately played. And every one of those plot cards had either, you know, some of them kind of fizzled and were not that big of a deal, but there were ones that had the power of an entire 2-action round.
Yeah.
And that would happen 4 times. So just like you guys described, the swing here is ridiculous. And I'm trying to just get a bead on what I'm supposed to do in this game. And honestly, what I felt like after playing one round was, I'll be damned if I'm becoming the emperor, because that just seems like that person's over there stressing out, and all I'm doing is sitting here thinking about how I can make their life harder. Yeah. You know, like I want you to suffer because you're the only one here getting any points. And ultimately, what I found out was that like there was a few sort of backdoor ways of gaining points in this game, and they just made me want to never be the emperor. All I want to do is just throw shade the emperor's way while I'm sitting here like, don't mind if I do take this building here, this building there, that's going to give me points. So, I mean, what you framed it as is this sort of, you know, just like you know, pounding each other on the shoulders and you know, throwing back some cold ones. And I get that. You know, I get that. It was the comparison to Time of Crisis that put me into this frame of mind where I'm like, okay, Time of Crisis, that's a game system that is like, that thing is built out of marble. And it might be a marble house that I'm trying to blow down as the wicked, you know, well, I guess I'm the wicked wolf now, but I'm, you know, big bad wolf. I'm a combination of the Wicked Witch and the Big Bad Wolf, if you haven't noticed. But, you know, that's like Time of Crisis, right? I feel like I'm on the outside of this marble house. I think that it's something beautiful and amazing, and I just don't quite crack into it because there I am, you know, like just without the necessary tools. Whereas Donnie the Purple, to me, is absolutely a house built of straw. It is because it's just constantly tumbling. It's all over the place. It's moving continents and you know, sending me letters like to try to get me to come there now. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know where I'm at. So if that in any way gives you an idea of my frame of mind while I'm playing Donnie the Purple, that was one single experience with a variable side of the player board that led to, you know, essentially my worst nightmare from previous rounds, you know, materializing in the form of a card that you're playing that card and that does that.
Yeah, that was,
you have 3 more of those to play.
Yeah, that was crazy because you guys were saying like we're getting all these cards. I'm like, oh my god, you know, when we were playing just the base game without the variable, we were struggling for cards, and you guys are just like, you know, we were getting all these cards. We had to discount to 4, and we're throwing them around. I'm like, oh my goodness, Joe, that sounded like the complete opposite game of what I've been playing like the past 8 times I've played this game. What's going on? And ever since then, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't play with the asymmetric powers if things go that nuts.
Well, you've also got where you're discarding down to 3 because you also have to discard down to 3 still.
You're forced to, yeah. Yes. So I mean, literally, like the player that was doing this was playing cards he was otherwise going to just have to chuck. Yeah. So like, I mean, there wasn't even really a choice on his end. It was just like play the ones. You know, especially right now, since we're about to do all the resolution phase, it was like, I'm going to play the ones that have the most impact, that benefit me the most. And there was just no answer. You know, no other player was able to answer. I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, but when you rolled the dice, the combat dice, I like the way that it goes if you get a number. Like, as long as you get a number, I'm like, okay, this is fine. You know, I don't want to say this is fine, but like, I actually enjoy the way those dice work. But if you roll that P, guess what it stands for?
Plot
cards. You know, and I've looked through, like, we had a couple of devastating event card flips, right? There was 5 cards of event cards. So I dug through that deck looking at, like, I just want to get a beat on what is the designer trying to do with this. And I'm actually okay with it. I know that 5 cards seems like a lot, but most of those things have balancing aspects in them. I can tell that the designer put time into trying to make it something where, like, this event deck is going to be slinging mud. If the players aren't slinging enough mud at the Emperor, this thing's going to be slinging more mud at the Emperor. And it's not just that. It slings occasional mud at players that are in for, you know, sort of like the advantageous position. So, I mean, it made sense to me, and the event deck is not that problematic. It's not really problematic at all. To me, it's that type of game. You know, it's just don't tell me to do 2 actions where I spend 2 actions with 1 goal and then have somebody flip a card out of their hand that says, I'm taking what you did. It's mine now. You know, and like that, I guess that's a level of take that I'm just kind of like, I don't want to invest my thought into what I'm going to do in a round if things are just that volatile.
Well,
so
here's something, like, I get what you're saying, and I can see how you would not like that. You want a more cerebral experience, that's more like Time of Crisis. This is more seat of the pants. That's why you call it. When you go into the game, you look at Time of Crisis. It's thinky. You strategize and everything. You invest in effort into how you're going to do your move. This, when you fly by the seat of your pants, that's why you call it Time of Chaos, because that's what it is. It is complete chaos. And that's what you're dealing with every turn. And then, you know, you never know what's going to happen. And that's where the fun part of it is, because you're like, I don't have to worry about planning and, you know, plotting. Yes, but not planning. You know, I planning kind of, but it's more about scheming and plots. And that's the fun part of it. You're not going to have that thinkier strategic element to it. This is more of a lighter, much lighter when it comes to that. Again, it's a seat of the pants. There's a lot of reactionary play in it. And that's because everything is in chaos. The empire is crumbling. And I think, again, you know, when you tie it in thematically, it does make sense in that regard. But again, it's not meant to be a thinky, a deep strategy game. Like Time of Crisis is much more so. This one is, you know, like I said, Time of Chaos. Go in there with that mindset. I think you'll have a lot more fun.
Well, Joe can blame me. I sold him at the Time of Crisis. That's my fault. In my enthusiasm, I say bad things. I'm sorry.
That's two good bad things. TC, honestly, I mean, when you use that term, time of, you know, your name for the game, Time of Chaos, like that what that does is it takes Time of Crisis and it pushes it even more into like TC's, you know, like into just his happy place, right? This is like a game that just lives firmly inside your happy place, TC. And I do think that there are ways that I can enjoy the game, especially if I was playing with somebody who really knew how to set up the experience for me, you know, to just, you know, don't take much of this, you know, don't take it so seriously and everything. And I mean, like, I can appreciate games for that as well, right? And I think TC you already said it. It's that you know, what I was expecting and looking for was like, okay, I'm kind of grooming this game to be a Time of Crisis replacement, or that's what a possibility of what it could be, right? And so it's, you know, it's not in any way a fault of the game that I went into it with the wrong expectation. And I'm just happy, you know, like TC, you're able to put it as your number one for your top game of 2018. I think that it's starting to get some attention, you know, that it's not getting anywhere else. And I'm happy that you guys are able to share in, you know, you both seem to have come to a consensus on what it is you love about Donning the Purple, and why you're going to keep coming back to it, because, you know, you certainly already have quite a bit.
Oh God, I've played this game so dang much. I think I probably got another like 8 games of this before people don't want to play it with me anymore, and I gotta let it rest for a while. And people are already going, well, it's a great way to get people to play Space Core, though. It's a great way to get people to play Space Core. But yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I mean, I had much the same experience with Scythe. You know, this thing was sold to me as a 4X game, right? In World War I, right? Like World War I, giant mechs, alternate history. My wife loves World War I, alternate history. I love 4X. And it was just like this complete miss. And it took me several plays of that to actually loop back around to it and appreciate it for the experience it was. So yeah, I totally have been in that position. If I went into Space Score expecting Space Empires 4X, you would not hear me stop complaining about it. You know, but I think because I think Dying of Purple came at an opportune time because I was just wanting an experience like this. I was like, you don't make games like this where, crazy things happen with cards and you're just trying to get the board under control while everybody else is just punching you in the face, especially if you're the Emperor. Like, it's like wham, wham. You come out with like bruises and you're limping. You're like, oh, what just happened? I don't know, but I want to do it again. Let's get back in.
Well, this game is very stereotypical of at least the Hollywood presentations of Rome. Like you watch a movie or a series like Spartacus, for example, or the HBO Rome. Everyone's plotting against everyone. Everyone's trying to screw everyone over. And that's the way this game kind of feels. It has that same type of feeling that it generates. It's obviously not as epic, but it's trying to put an epic time period into a condensed format, which I think in that regard it works, and it does have that chaotic upheaval. You never know what's going to happen. There's a lot of intrigue, there's table talk, and in that regard, I think it's really successful. Now, as far as anybody wanting to have more control, you're not going to have control. You're really just not going to have control, and that's, again, part of the fun of it for some people. Other people aren't going to like that, and that's fine, because that's why there's so many different types of games. But if you go into it and you just ride by the seat of your pants and just play quick, off-the-cuff decisions that this is what's going to be good for me now, and I think this is actually maybe be better for me, in the long run, then you can play it that way. And the one card you want to hold on to is that steal the air token, because when someone goes, oh, I'm going to assassinate the Emperor and I'm going to get it, well, I'm going to take that air token from you now. So when or that person's going to die, they have the air token. Well, right before they die, you say, I'm going to take that air token from you. So the next turn, they're going to die, and they die, you become the Emperor. So timing is very critical in this, especially if you can take over the Emperor token right at the end of the turn. You can just, hey, that guy's got all the stuff set up and he's fed all the people and everything, he dies. Well, guess what? Now I can get the taxes. So
you can get the taxes, the victor points, and then die.
Yes. Yeah. So it's kind of neat, in that regard. It's the thing I didn't like, but I also understand it again, because it would make the Emperor too overpowered, is moving the legions, having a little bit more capability of moving those with your own army would be neat, at least if you could have one or two. But again, you can't do that because they would make that player overpowered. And at the same time, it also removes the need for the plot cards to buff your army. Aside from the monument giving you the +1, so you run around at a 3 total strength in each plot card you play, and you can play as many as you want. And in the solitaire game, you really need those block cards, because you're going to be facing 6 or 8, enemies in a region or in a province. So you're going to need, 2 or 3 plot cards to get your army up to 8 or 9 strength to take those guys out. But you have to, because otherwise all of those little swords are going to be on the board very fast, and you're going to lose the game.
Like, 1, 2, 15, 18, 20. We're dead, guys. Whoops.
Yeah. They're like rabbits. They multiply very quickly.
Yeah. And then, those event cards can make them come out even faster, and you just start crying. And then what's funny is I think there's even when there's you could get so many in an area you can't count them. There's like a +10 you just put out. Yeah, +10. It's an encampment now. That's really, really bad. Yeah, they have the camp that you can use in the advanced game, where you can do, like you were saying, you got 5. Just throw the 5 token down there. You're good to go. You have that 5 counter down, and you're set. But overall, I was really happy with it. I think Peter did a good job with this, a really great job. And is this his first design?
It's a second.
Second, okay.
Kill the King, I think, was his first, if I remember correctly. This one, I think he hit the target he was aiming for, which was, just
regicide.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Joe.
But I think he hit his target squarely, on this one, what he wanted to do. He wanted to get this whole chaotic empire is crumbling and everyone's fighting to be the emperor and get everything they can before they, beat feet and leave to some other country or whatever with all their riches, and I think it was good, and it's compact, it's fast, it plays in an hour, and it's not gonna beat you up too bad as far as like hating it or something like that. But if you go into it with the wrong expectations, you're going to have that, oh, I expect this to be a little more thinky. No, it's not. It's not that you can't think or strategize. You can. It's more about the player interaction and how you can basically screw each other over and have fun in the process. And I think it hits it ticks all the boxes for me in that regard. When you want something that's lighter. If you want something a little thinkier, a little bit more serious, then you're going to go Time of Crisis, obviously. But every genre, I think, benefits from having games at all levels, and this is at that low to moderate level, light to moderate, I should say, because there is some things you have to think about. You have to take into consideration as you're making your decisions, but you never know what's going to happen. So you can't put too much effort into thinking through, because you'll drive yourself crazy. Well, what if this happens? What if that? It's gonna happen. Just go with it. Live in the moment.
Well, I think you've succinctly gave some nice final thoughts on that. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think it's worth if you get a chance to play it at a con, go play it. If you've got it and I'm at a con, bring the whiskey and we'll sit down and play, and we'll have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I definitely plan on at the end of March for my local game convention. I definitely plan on breaking this one out as one of the late night games to wind the evening down with.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a perfect game for that.
And this game plus Fog of Love is definitely on the Joe we need to playlist at some point. I mean, and hopefully I'd maybe throw Andy in the mix or Trent, because I think just having us, I think we'd find more out. I think we'd find more about each other playing this game than just hanging out with each other and talking.
Yeah, how can I ever play Fog of Love without you, TC?
Yeah, no, it's just like, every time I see Fog of Love, I'm like, it's our game, Joe. I know it. I have a copy. Yeah. I have a copy. It's just one of these days. It's gonna be. Yeah. I'm gonna see you. I'm just gonna be holding the box, and you're gonna nod, and you know what's gonna happen.
The time has come.
The time has come.
You're finally gonna christen it.
So where can people get a hold of you at, Mo, before we take off?
You can find me on Twitter at Mo's Game Table, or at mosgametable.com, or on my YouTube channel, Mo's Game Table.
And I don't know if this made it into the recording or not, but you are part of a successful Kickstarter. You want to plug that a bit before we go? Yeah,
we have a Kickstarter currently going. It is just the first week is finished right now. We have, let me just verify exactly how many days, 22 days to go, and we are successfully funded. We've got 9 stretch goals already unlocked. That is for Storming the Gap, World War 85 from Lock and Load Publishing. So if you're interested in platoon level combat in an alternate universe World War III, come check it out on Kickstarter. And I think you'll really, really like it. If you're into that style of game, it is a chit pull / formation cards is what we're using in this instead, but it's a chit pull mechanic. So it plays very well solitaire as well as multiplayer. And it's going to be packed with a ton of stuff. So come check it out.
Yeah, I feel so bad. I've been talking to you for a few months now. I didn't even realize you had this going. I'm like, ooh, I'm a bad point of contact to have, man. Kind of dropped the ball on that.
Nah, no worries.
Anything you want to play? Anything you want to say before we call this, Joe?
It's been great to have you back, Mo. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Joe. Had a great time.
Yeah, and anytime you want to talk about another war game, you're like our war game contact. So it keeps us keeps a diversity with the long view. So if you have an old game you want to talk about, just drop us a line, and I'll try to find and at least get a few plays of it so we can talk about it.
I'll tell you one right now that you could take a look at from Hollandspiel, and that is Brave Little Belgium.
Brave Little Belgium. I'm writing that. I thought you were going to say Meltwater, because I've already experienced that sucker.
Meltwater is another good one, but Brave Little Belgium just came out last week, and it's from First Time Designers. They're a couple of buddies that have been friends for like 40 years. They put this game out, and the cool part about it is it's a fast-playing game, but it hits on a piece of history that a lot of people aren't aware of. Or not really aware of as much, but Belgium basically stood their ground against Germany in World War I when Germany says, hey, we're coming through, we're going after France, and Belgium said, no, you're not. And they stood there, and they stood their ground, and they made it tough on the Germans, and that's why they got the moniker Brave Little Belgium. And the game is very, very, very fast moving, very enjoyable game. Chip pull mechanic again, so it's solitaire friendly. but really great game, and it's done by Hollandspiel, and they're a fantastic company. They do a great job with their games.
Yeah, to be sure, let Andy know about that one. He seems to be our Hollandspiel nut. He's the one who got me on the Meltwater.
Nice.
Yeah, and then and my wife being a World War I. Yeah, see, I'll definitely check that out. So yeah, let's just wrap this up. Thank you very much for responding, Mo. I'm always a pleasure to have you on. I love having you on. And one of these days, I am going to make that San Diego convention. We're going to sit down and play something. I told Chris, I'm like, hey, not only is Harold going to be there, Mo's going to be there. We like all these contacts now. I was like, oh, so we got plans in place for November. So
there you go. Now you got to get Joe out of here. We're going to have to play Time of Chaos.
There we go. There we go. Well, Joe will be like just screaming on the jet plane all the way back. Why I do? Clutching his copy of Fog of Love. No. Well, thank you very much, and we'll just call that an episode.
Great. Thanks, guys.